And so I got this idea in my head that I wanted to turn this into a business. I had a vision, I knew how we were going to do it. It was, scary because no one else was really doing that sort of thing.
To have that vision and to be a visionary, that's what drives so many new things that come into our lives is having vision. And
Oh,
then taking that vision and materializing it, like literally making it come to life. Oh, hey, Beth, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are
I'm, s-
you?
I'm doing great. Yeah. I'm just so glad that we get to have you on this podcast. I'm going to just kind of let you tell us, introduce yourself, tell us about your company and how you got started.
Yeah, totally. So I'm Beth. I'm one of the co-owners of Wet Dog Tile Company. And it's one of those kind of funny, wild, quirky stories. So Dan, my partner, and I were in the tile business. We were in sales for a while. We kind of popped around at few different locations. Dan had kind of gotten into some installation too, but he was sales as well.
Hmm.
And Wet Dog just kind of started as this sort of like fun, creative outlet for me. Like I said, I was in sales, so it was kind of around 2008, 2009 when Pebble Tile were really like blowing up, right? They
Hmm.
just everyone wanted them and they were cool. And we were in sort of the south coast of Massachusetts, a coastal community, and people love the Pebbles. They're so popular. And every now and then someone would come in and they just want like a fun pop of color maybe or some interesting texture to add to it. And when you're in tile sales, you don't want to ever tell a customer you don't have anything, right? Because then they're going to
Yeah.
start looking. And so I really became kind of fixated on it. And I was like, there's got to be something like cool and interesting that we can like pop in there to make it look, a little more texture. I kind of looked around and there were a few things out there, but nothing that really like stood out to me as being cool and interesting. So I have a background in fine art. I was in design for a while. Design's kind of what led me to tile, but my real passion was fine art. So it just sort of evolved into like I started messing around with ceramics and I kind of had a vision in my head for what I thought would be fun. And it was just like a little passion project, just something you do when you get home at the end of the day that brings you some joy. That, it led to I ended up buying a kiln and I watched tons of YouTube videos and I was doing all the research. And so after a while, I started creating some things that were kind of cool. They were like little ceramic, they were starfish or crabs. I did some fish and I brought them into the shop that I was working at
Hmm.
and they did pretty well. They were different. People liked them. So, and around the same time, I did a lot of, I was really passionate, still am, about animal rescues, dogs, cats, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And because it was fun and I just did it for me, I donated everything I got to these local rescue groups we were working with. So it was cool. And so then, how life always does, we suddenly found out that we were expecting. It was very welcome but unexpected.
Unexpectedly expecting.
Totally, exactly. It was one of those moments where it was like it just life turned upside down and you just really evaluate what you want out of life and where you want it to take you. And so I got this idea in my head that I wanted to turn this into a business. I had a vision, I knew how we were going to do it. And Dan, my partner at the time, wasn't as confident in the plan as me, but slowly I think he kind of started to come around to what and see what I was seeing. And yeah, it just, we started off by expanding from just little fun tiles to doing
Hmm.
borders and murals. We started importing some pebbles and natural stone. We found a company that would manufacture glass tiles, little mosaics to our specifications, and it just really evolved. And we started making displays and reaching out to other tile showrooms that had kind of like started hearing about us. And so, that was 13 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been great. I mean, it was, scary because no one else was really doing that sort of thing, combining like pebbles and glass and ceramic. And so there wasn't really like a footprint to follow. There's not like, okay, this company's doing it, it's going well, so we should be okay, right? But
Right.
it was just different. But I think that's what's really ultimately been, successful for us. So
It's
I'll
fun
go.
to have that vision And to be a visionary, once you see that there is something that's missing, right? Like, of
Totally.
course, there's just so many different types of tile and all of that, but that you were in the right place at the right time and have the right background. It's a funny combination of just all of that coming together, give you this inspiration to create this vision.
Yeah.
I mean, we all feel the same way about like stepping out when we get these ideas. You're like, is this happening? I loved where you wrote, Miss Dan's like, is she kind of happy? What's going on here? Is she losing it or what is this? But just to have that, because that's what drives so many new things that come into our lives is having vision. And
Oh,
then taking that vision and materializing it, like literally making it come to life. So tell me a little bit about the kiln in the second bedroom. Like, how was the experimentation process for you?
yeah. It was true like old school trial and error. Like
Mhm,
it's like taking pasta and throwing it at the fridge and seeing what sticks, right? Like, and there was a lot of fails.
mhm.
Yeah, I had this little like janky guest bedroom, and oh my god, I look back on it now and not OSHA approved at all, but
Like, right.
it was just fun. It was like, I think what really was helpful is that Dan and I had a lot of experience with installation.
Mhm.
So, we kind of had that like piece of the picture where, okay, if we do this and it's raised here, grout's not going to want to stick there, or it's going to be uncomfortable to walk on, right? So it was really just kind of like troubleshooting to just see, what people are going to want, what looks good, but then also that compromise of like, is this going to be stable enough? Is it going to, withhold high traffic, that sort of stuff.
Right, make those standards because it is, a
Yeah.
lot of the floors that you guys create, which are so
Mhm.
very unique. Can't wait to feature the some of them on the show because it's like just the pebble walkway, the way it would just take over a part of the tile,
Yeah,
like planning that out. How has that been for you as like the designer to really, and it's like taking the creative side and then making the technical side, collaborate and
totally.
cooperate with you.
And that's also like a huge, I feel like as an artist, you can make a really cool, interesting piece, tile, or, whatever your medium is. But I feel like you need to have that practical side of it as well.
Hmm.
There's two really big, important pieces of the puzzle. So when I was doing tile design, I had a lot of experience with sort of drafting and architectural drawing and, laying rooms out to scale and making sure my design would fit. And so it was important to me to be able to bring that in because I don't want to be a difficult, one of those vendors who makes something that the tile installer looks at and they're like, "Oh my god,
Mamma
like
mia,
how are
yeah.
you going to do this?" Right? So every one of our custom designs, I do a scaled drawing for.
Mhm.
So it's all totally laid out. Every piece we know where it's going to go. We know where the seams are going to be. So really, kind of making it look amazing, but
Mhm.
also translate to when it gets in that space is something that we're really methodical
The
about.
functionality along with the
Yeah.
look, right?
Yep,
So
totally.
that brings up another question for me, like how when you guys, let's just say, for example, you get a custom, request and you go through that whole process, kind of take us through like what that process looks like for you.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So, it always starts with a conversation, right? We have a client that reaches out to us or to one of our showrooms. And, sometimes they have a photo that they've seen in our photos and ideas section on the website. And we'll
Mhm.
kind of use that as a jumping off point, not always, but more often than not. And they come to us with measurements. That's a really critical part there.
Yeah.
And have them, look at our textures. We have a full sample program so we can mail out samples, any of our textures, any of our glazes. And how we handle that is we'll send you the samples. There's a small fee, but then if you return them, we credit them back. So we
Oh,
really try
cool.
and make it like super easy for people to see actual pieces of what they're getting.
That makes sense. Instead of
Yeah.
being
And then
surprised on the back end, right?
totally. Yep. And
Mhm.
we try and have it be current pieces too. So, as you know, with like natural stone and, handmade ceramic glazes, they can vary. So we do that first and we really try and kind of bang out the key details, color, pieces that you like, textures you like. So once we get that figured out, then we go and I do a scaled drawing and it's very old school colored pencils, but I like it. It's sort of got an artistic quality, and ultimately, it's sort of the blueprint for what it's going to look like when it's
Right.
done. So, and we can make some changes there. And then once the drawing is approved, Then we glaze all the pieces, we get it ready to go. And we lay it out on our tables. We use fiberglass mesh and we do what we call a dry lay. So everything is laid out how it's going to be. It's just
Mhm.
not been glued yet.
Right.
We photograph it. We work really hard on getting the lighting just right. We have really high quality studio lighting. So we photograph it. If it's not looking quite right, we will color correct it and then we'll send it off to the client. So they can get a pretty, solid sense. It's not grouted, obviously,
Mhm.
but they're going to see exactly what they're getting. And then at that point, they have the opportunity to make some changes. They can say, I don't like the color of this whale. Can we go a little darker? Or can you move
Mm.
it a little to the right? And so they can really like hone in and get it exactly how they want it. And then from there, we glue it. So it gets all glued down. We let it dry for about 3 or 4 days, and then we cut it up, and you get it like you would any other mesh mounted mosaic, usually 12 by 12 pieces. Borders, we try and stick to about 12 inches, and a really fancy detailed diagram. So when it shows up, the installer knows, okay, exactly how it's going to lay out. We'll even put little notes on there like, start on the bottom, work to your left, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's the process.
Wow, that's really cool. And so in that process, like even the dry thing that were you talking about so that you can lay it out and make sure it's what they want, little opportunity for changes or tweaking and what have you. Did you kind of discover that part or did you know about doing that before in the work that you guys had done previously?
I think it was a little bit of both. There's always trial and error, and you figure out what is and what isn't going to work. I think it was really our goal to make people feel comfortable. These are not small, simple. There's a cost investment to this,
Mhm.
right? And it's a work of art, really, is the way we see it. So I think eliminating any of the like it shows up on site, and even God forbid gets installed, and the client's like, ooh, we didn't want that. And we knew
Yeah,
that from the jump that was like, okay, we really need to hone this process and get it so that everyone's happy, right? So, I mean, some of it's been kind of tweaked here and there. But that was sort of something from the beginning that we decided we needed a really clean, clear cut way of doing custom work where everyone feels good about it. And that's just worked for us. So,
that's
yeah.
wonderful. And then you've got also the things that are like if they go on there and they want to pick something out and it already is existing and they can just get
Yes.
that as well,
And
which
I'm
is a
glad
great
you brought
idea.
that up because I think a lot of people, see our stuff as custom and it sounds sometimes that can sound a little scary, right? Like
Mhm.
it's expensive or it's going to take me a really long time to get it, that kind of thing. But we have a huge collection of, we call them pre-made borders, pre-made murals, and they're all sort of what you see is what you get. We keep them stocked. They're in our quick ship program. They're literally sitting on a shelf. We can package them up, tomorrow and you can get them in within a few days.
That's
So,
great. Another
yeah,
great option to have.
yeah, totally.
For you, like, so it's been 13 years now since you've had this company. I can imagine, when you step out, like you're saying, you guys both worked for another, bigger company, obviously, and you step out and you're like, okay, we're going to do this, and you started up. What are some of the things that came up for you as being a small business owner, small to mid-size, I guess, or how you see that, and then what were some surprises that you guys ran into as far as like good and like ay kind of surprises?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's a great question. So I think that the big thing is that when you're a small company and you're just sort of starting out and you start to get some success and you're like, okay, we're doing really good, there's always this, it sort of feels like, and maybe this is just a human thing, this desire to like go bigger
Mhm.
and to grow, right? And I think we came, and this was about 3 or 4 years ago, we sort of just discovered that, growing and getting bigger isn't always the
Better.
best option and better, right? So it's like, the bigger you get, like it's great and you can expand your offering and really dig in deep and really grow the collections. But at the end of the day, it's like then you have more, it's just more, right? It's like
Yeah.
more responsibility and it's more employees to manage. And we sort of just made this like collective decision that we were actually happy. Like it's working for us. We like
Mhm.
the size we are. We like being small. We like having a shop that, it's exactly what we need to do the work that we're doing right now. And we're really happy with that.
And it's
And so,
gratifying, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's gratifying, and it means that we can really be that small kind of artsy company that is able to kind of do funky different things that maybe we wouldn't be able to do if we got really big. So that's
Right.
the big one. That took a while to get to that realization that like, this is good, right? Like we don't need more. Gosh, I don't know. Staffing, I think that's like a universal thing for everyone, right? It's like finding
Sure.
the right people, and we're really really selective, and we have some great people that have been with us for a while now. And really just taking care of them, and creating a work environment that we all want to come to.
Right.
I feel like that's such an important part of the piece, is just creating a really healthy work environment where people are happy and they want to be here, and we can communicate and collaborate. And
So you guys
lastly,
have a studio where everybody, they literally come in every day. So you've got people who, do you have, now I know that obviously you're the lead designer. Do you have other like junior designers or a team, or how do you guys like configure your
yeah,
company?
totally. So I'm the head. So it's kind of funny. Dan and I have this, my partner and I, my husband, have this very, we call it the separation of church and state. So like him, the creative side, and he's sort of the business side and all.
Hmm.
And it's perfect. It works out very well. So I have people that work with me. I have a really amazing artist. She's been here. Actually, she was our nanny when we first started
Oh,
out,
wow.
and she's an artist, and she's been with us, I think, 10 or 11 years now, and
Wow.
she's incredible. So she does a lot of the artwork, like the mosaics, and she's an accomplished, she's great at glazing, and that's really great. And she's a critical piece of the puzzle. She will do training of new employees and things like that.
Hmm.
And then Dan on his side has someone very similar, and it's actually funny because the two of them are also husband and wife. So
That works
Harley's
out
with
well.
me. It does. And Matt's with Dan, and they're amazing. They work really well together. They're both very techy and are able to, do all the sides of the business that frankly I'm like, my head's gonna explode
It's
thinking
like
of,
the
right?
Z's come out of your brain.
Yes, exactly. So the four of us are really like the day to day. And then we have a program with a local university here in New Hampshire, that we partnered with, and art students are able to get studio art credit working for us.
That's
It's,
awesome.
yeah, it's a regular, paying job for them. It's not an internship, and it helps us, just get even seasonal work if we need it.
Hmm.
We have some high school students that are in art. They work for us a few hours a week. It's sort of a just depending on where we are and what we need. Yeah, and it works.
That
So
sounds like such a cool community almost feel to it.
yeah, and that was my goal when we started out. I want this to be not stressful. We've all had those jobs. You don't
Oh,
want to get
yeah.
up in the morning, and that was like a really important part of it. So yeah.
So, your love for, animal rescue and also for the environment. Would love to hear you talk a little bit about like how, like for the animal rescue side of it. Has this been a passion of yours since you were a child, or how did this come about for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I've always been really passionate about. I think it sort of started, we were working in Baltimore, Maryland. We lived in Baltimore, Maryland for a while. We had this experience where one of our dogs at the time had actually gotten stolen from
Oh,
our yard.
wow.
Yeah, and for the purpose of being used as a bait dog for dog fighting.
Oh,
And it was a
gosh.
really crazy wild experience. I found him, I got him back, he was fine.
Oh,
But it
great.
just opened my eyes to this whole world that I never knew anything about. I didn't know kill shelters were a thing.
Hmm.
I guess I was very naive in that. And just going to the shelters where there was like almost like death rows, right? Like the dogs that had been there 5 days were going to be euthanized if no one adopted them the next day. And it was just this really heartbreaking, eye-opening experience for me. So I think that was really what kind of lit the fire. And when I started, like I said, Wet Dog, we were really into that world. And it always just felt like the thing they would always say they needed most, these rescues. It wasn't blankets, it wasn't crates, it wasn't food. It was just money, it was resources to be able to fund, the work that they were doing. So Yeah, I think it really came from that. It's something I'm still passionate about. I mean, we have 4 dogs here currently, and we've had many more, fostering and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think it's just something that really stuck with me and really resonated, and
Hmm.
something that, all of us here, everyone here has a rescue or has a rescue experience. So yeah,
It's
that's
still a
definitely
passion, yeah. And because,
yeah,
like, you still and right now, part of your any kind of purchase, you still donate a portion
we
to.
do. Yep. Portion of every single proceed goes towards, and they vary. They're local, they're national. Sometimes if there's a specific like effort relief, if there's a hurricane, we'll send
Mhm.
money to a group that's on the ground there. But yeah, it's still really, really much a part of the business model. And it's really served us well. And I think we connect with a lot of clients that are like, yeah, we have rescues too. And it's great. It's been great for
I
us.
love that. So then you were expecting, so came along in that expectation.
Yes, yes, my oldest daughter, she's 13 now, which is just
Wow.
crazy to me. Yep, and then right
Teenager.
after her, we had another that was not expected. She's 11 now. So, and actually my
Wow.
oldest works here and she's fabulous. She's amazing at pressing clay into molds and making tile. So,
I was wondering about that, like if they were also involved and enjoyed that as well.
totally. Yeah, they do. Yeah, I mean, it's different, right? It's like, it's a very unique sort of business to be in. It's fun and it's interesting. I think they like working with, like, at this age, the high school kids and the college kids. They're kind of the cool older kids.
Of
So,
course.
yeah, we've got that going on now too. But
I
yeah.
love that. So you guys are also into, caring about the impact on the environment with, and that's a big thing. It's been so much fun to learn about the industry and the history. And just the various ways that people interact with tile, honestly, and to kind of come to find out that some grouts are toxic, some adhesives. So just to have this ongoing approach to make things be less, harmful, quite honestly, to the people who are using it and to the earth around us and all of that. So tell us a little bit about that for you.
Yeah. I think way back in the beginning, that was something I really loved about tile is that, it doesn't off gas and
Hmm.
it's a pretty permanent material, and there are absolutely, toxic components to the industry. But yeah, I mean, gosh, I'm not going to go on too long here, but we are major hippies here, very priority for the environment. So, when we built our new shop, the studio we're in now, we've been here about 8 years, I think.
Hmm.
That was sort of on like the top of the punch list, right? Is like really making it as efficient as it can be. We're in northern New England, it gets super duper cold here.
Hmm.
Um, so everything from, the insulation we used, when we designed the building, it was really designed to get maximum southern exposure and a lot of roof space because our goal was really to try and be sort of off grid as much as possible. And
That's
we've been pretty
awesome.
successful with that. I'd say about 80%, all through the summer, the warmer, sunnier months, we're making more electricity than we can use. And then we use those credits and apply them in sort of the colder, cloudier months. So we're about 80% self sufficient as far as energy goes. Gosh, and just, all the things, it's just sort of always at the forefront. It's just sort of part of the culture. So I'm almost having to like think about the specific ones, but everything from, clay that is, seconds or is damaged or doesn't come out the way we want, we recycle all of it.
Hmm.
We invested in a really big scale. It's called a pug mill, and it allows you to reuse old dry clay. We use a lot of the energy from our kilns. We have sort of an air exchange situation where if it's cold out, the warm air stays in, but it's filtered so that it's clean and safe for all of us to breathe. Any of our glazes are all lead free. There's no VOCs, there's no harmful chemicals. They're actually food safe. You could even
Yeah.
eat our tiles. So that's a big one. It just, when it becomes part of your culture and sort of your mission, it's just, you're not even really like aware of it. It's just something you do. And we try really, really hard to. And obviously it's never perfect, but
Right. But
yeah.
hey, 80%. Wow. I mean,
And I think that goes back to the other part of staying small, is that when you have a smaller business and you can do that sort of stuff, if we were to go that much bigger, I don't know if we'd be able to do that. So,
that's
yeah.
so cool. I mean, when you guys are artists like that, I can see why you wouldn't want to get it, let it get too far afield in that regard, and to stay this boutique, exclusive in a sense, type of experience is, a great choice.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I think, the more hands you get involved in it and the farther you are stepping away from sort of the creative side of it, because you have to, right? When you grow, you have to be a business owner and,
Hmm.
handle all those things. And it really pulls you away from, where you originally started out, right? And for me, it's the creative side of it. So, and we've experimented it. We've tried bringing in like technology to do some of the stuff I do. I do, like I said, all my drawings are with, colored pencils and a ruler and a scale. And we've tried the digital, and I just enjoy that side of it. And I
Hmm.
think it's more interesting. And I think the clients really like that. So yeah, it's true. I think the farther you get away from that, it's when you get into kind of like dangerous territory and you're
A
not loving it,
compromise.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How is it that you guys, since so much has changed, just technology, social media, in the last 13 years, how is it you guys? This might be more of like the business side, but just curious of like how you guys have people find out about you. Like, what
Mhm.
have you found? That is it word of mouth? Uh, do you market yourself? You advertise it? How do you guys do it?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's changed dramatically. Like 13 years, it's a while, of course. And it's so funny. So when we first started out, word of mouth kind of, but our product is really, I mean, we sell it all throughout the US, Canada, we're international. So the internet was a huge part of it. And we first
Mhm.
started, Pinterest was just coming onto the
Oh
scene.
yeah.
Pinterest was a big one for us. House was a big one, and we were getting, a lot of traction there. And then we have showrooms. So we have 22 retail locations that also carry
Oh,
the one.
that's a great idea.
It's kind of the combo, we felt like the more diversified we were, like the healthier we were going to be long term. But it's funny because it's changed. It's changed so dramatically. Even Google, like, we had a website that was really design based and image heavy. And at the time, that was, what we did.
Hmm.
And now it's funny because it's just changed so much. I mean, Google wants to see keywords and, a lot
Oh
of
wow.
text on your website to get more Google hits. So, I mean, I think you really have to be flexible as far as that goes. We're right now working through a process where we're trying to upgrade everything, and we're rebuilding our whole new website and making it more Google friendly and search engine optimization friendly. And then there's social media, and I think that's just sort of like this, like for every business owner,
It
right?
is.
It's like I'm an artist and I want to make tile, but you can't ignore it. And I was very reluctant to get on board with the social media thing. It's kind of not my jam. I'm not into technology. But I have to tell you, I've actually really I'm happy with it now because it's
Oh,
sort
that's
of this
good.
whole other community out there of people that are interested in what you're doing and wouldn't see your work otherwise. And I really like that sense of community, people that are just supportive and then they do something, but maybe it's a little bit different than what you're doing. So you're kind of learning from them too. So I've really embraced it. I don't think we all 100% know what we're doing, but I'm trying and I'm keeping an open mind and I'm trying to be consistent.
I agree with you. I mean, social media is just taking on this whole new thing where it's like this marketplace. I couldn't ignore it either. I mean, so I'm with you.
I understand it. It's storytelling, and those are the ones that are interesting to me. Like I like
Mhm.
getting to know the product, but I also think it's cool like seeing who's making it and how they're making
True.
it, right? And that's uncomfortable for me because I'm one of those people that I don't even like hearing my voice like recorded being played back to me. And God forbid like putting myself on camera. So that's a little uncomfortable and I think there's a learning curve where you have to like get over it, just
Get
like
over it. Exactly.
it's gonna be okay but it's a little weird at first and that's been a struggle for me but you
And
gotta
it's
just
not going to go away.
it's not gonna go away and you just
No,
gotta embrace it so
I'm also seeing, the benefits of it and just navigating it differently now. So that, I just want to see the benefits come out of it and not get too hung up on, some of the cringier things that I've seen myself in.
Totally, totally. And it's really easy. It's really easy to have those cringe moments, but
Yeah, get over what, whelmed
you
with
just gotta
that.
do it, you just gotta show up and do it.
So you were telling me, like, so part of that now is that you've got different retailers that you have your stuff focused in. So is that was that a pretty simple thing? Like, if you got into one or two, was it pretty easy for that to expand once people got aware of the idea of it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, definitely. I think, when you're in the tile world and you're in a retail location, I know that anytime something kind of different would come in, we would all be like, oh, wow, people get excited about it. And
Sure.
it is really different. So that was never an issue. It's always just being really selective for us. We really want retailers that are focused on product knowledge and know how to sell it and recognize that it's not just like a basic 3x6 field tile. Like there's a little bit more effort and care that needs to be taken, both in the design process and then with the installer, being able to do the install. So we really wanted to be selective, and we've been very fortunate. We have amazing retailers. But it's funny because the industry is really changing.
Mm.
It used to be, back when Dan and I both started out selling tile, no one bought anything off the internet. Like people
Oh
didn't buy
yeah.
tile off the internet. It was always you went into your tile retailer or a big box store, depending on what you were looking for. And it's shifting now, right? So it's like some people will exclusively shop for everything online, and then other people like to like see it and touch it and that sort of thing.
True.
And then there's the combination. So that's a challenge for us navigating. Some people are like, I don't want to go to a showroom. Can I order from you? And that's always really difficult for us. So that's something we're sort of working out. And then there's other areas where we just don't have a retailer. And then we have it worked out where they can
You
very
have a
easily.
method for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've noticed that too. I've noticed that, like, that, and I guess COVID really, drove that into existence, where people want to, go online and buy stuff more so than there's a convenience, I guess, to it. As long as they feel confident that what they're going to get is going to be what they want.
and I mean, I get it. It's convenient, right? Like I very much, we're rural New England here. We don't have a lot of store options.
Mhm.
So much what we do is online and even grocery shopping now. You can place your order from your couch and then you go
It's
pick it up.
crazy.
It's like,
Literally, you could not leave your house.
yeah, for sure.
Speaking of which, how did that go for you guys, since you mostly work in person and together? How did the COVID uh, situation affect you guys?
It was challenging and stressful for everyone, but
Hmm.
we have such a close knit situation here where it's myself and my partner, and then the other couple that works with us, and they actually live on our property in a cottage, and we're all very like it really wasn't it
It
wasn't
didn't
a
impact
terrible
you.
thing.
Oh,
No.
that's amazing.
And it's rural, so we weren't there's no public transit. We all walk into work, and it's obvious it was stressful. Of course it was stressful, in the whole like
Sure. But that's
quarantining.
amazing, though, that it didn't have to, you guys
Yeah,
didn't have to take a hit like that. I mean, it's, I think the word pivot came so much more into use that during that time, because people were pivoting to, work around that. But I think you're right. When you're rural like that, you're not getting as much exposure as
for
you
sure.
would be in a major populated city or what have you. So, I mean, it's a blessing in a way, because you're like maybe not even getting exposure
Mhm. And
out
I mean,
there.
we did, and there was the whole, in your like pod, that whole bit, and that was difficult. And we do have children, so that was tricky. So I'm not saying it wasn't without its complications or drama, but and we were pretty busy. I think a lot of people were just home, and it
They
got
had
them looking
time.
around and being like, "Oh, we could really use to like up our backsplash game here," because we did have sort of that infrastructure. We had the website, and we had Pinterest and all those other things sort of in place. People found us. So, compared to some other folks, the retail side of it, we were really fortunate. And I
That's
think it was really
great.
luck, honestly, to a pretty big degree, but it was it was okay for us, as
That's
stressful as
so
it
funny.
is.
Yes, yes, definitely a stressful time. So I just heard you say up your, I can't talk now, up your backsplash game. I love that. So like how we came up with this up your tile game is that Kurt, who's the owner of the Tile Doctor, was saying that he was at a convention one time and this guy, an acquaintance, came up and said, you know, man, I got to up my tile game. And that's how he had mentioned that. So like when you hear that phrase, since that's the name of this podcast, what comes to your mind when you hear that phrase?
Boy, I think it's really just like for some people, it's part of the whole kitchen renovation prep package, right? Where they're like doing the cabinets and the countertop, and then the backsplash goes together. But I think the backsplash is a really cool place to be able to sort of upgrade and get some color and some texture in without having to change like everything, you know?
Hmm.
So it could be just doing something different. Maybe you have a dated backsplash, and it's one of those things, especially tile people can walk in and be like, you did your backsplash in 2001, or it could be personalizing it. And that's a lot of what we get is folks that kind of want to tell a story and they want something creative, but they want it personalized. So, like, we've done everything from we can make a custom dog to match your dog, glazed exactly like, or maybe it's a dog that's since passed. So it's kind of a
Hmm.
tribute. We had a woman that wanted a tile of her granddaughter playing in the sand on the beach. And so we did that. So I think it's something different to everyone, really. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I think it's just how it makes you feel. You're in your kitchen more than really any room in the house. Well, I guess in our house, maybe not everyone's, but
That's
and
me
you just want
too.
to feel good when you're in it, right? So I think it's personal. It can be something different to everyone, really.
Very personalized, yes. So speaking of which, like what would you say if you've got one or two or three of your favorite projects? Do you have something that stands out that maybe had more meaning or impact to you that
Oh boy, that's a great question. Holy moly. I always love doing the dogs because I
Mhm.
always feel like it's sort of this tribute to them. And it's a small, piece in terms of square footage, but I love the people that always want to include their dogs, right? So I like when we have like, we'll go to glaze the order and we'll open the folder and there's just two images of dogs.
Oh.
I love just being able to recreate that. I think that's always fun. And we do a fair amount of that. I always love the colorful ones.
Mhm.
A lot of what we do, and don't get me wrong, I love the more neutral, elegant, classic looks, just really timeless. The neutrals and the soft blues, but I do always think it's fun when people just like want to go for it. They're like, I want purple starfish and I want, orange seahorses. And it's not exactly like what I would have thought up in my head, but I'm like, yeah, like let's do that. If you want a super fun, colorful bathroom, like let's.
And that kind of brings it right back around to like how you got inspired. And that was that lack of color choice, maybe that you were hearing from clients and customers that you worked with when you're working for the tile company, right?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I personally love combining textures, obviously, based on what we do, but I love when there's, you've got the sheen of glass and then you've got sort of the soft matte texture of pebbles. And then, you can accent it with a really cool, colorful, starfish or, something else to kind of just pull it all together.
Hmm.
I really love that. That's where my jam is mixing it
I
all
love
together.
that idea, the textures too. Textures are very interesting, just, complementing and juxtaposing against each other. And so, what is like one of the most unique or memorable requests that you've got as far as like a custom design?
Oh, so oh gosh, we've had so many. We've had people send us shark's teeth that they found when they were
Oh,
walking on the
wow.
beach, and that's always fun. We've integrated those in.
That's a cool idea. I didn't think about that part of it.
We have folks that send us beach glass that they've found. We've had a couple people that have sent us stones in the shape of a heart that a friend or a loved one had maybe given them, and they wanted to incorporate that in. Those are always pretty cool. I just had a random one pop out. So we had a client from the UK, from England, and she was renovating John Lennon's childhood home that he
Oh,
had grown up
wow.
in. And I remember just making the piece and thinking, wow, this is really, it's very cool. And, That
Who
was a
would have ever thought that that would be part of like, that's going to be in your future when you do this company?
it's just wild. It is
It
just
is.
really, really wild. Yeah,
I love it.